I finally watched Star Trek Starfleet Academy Episode 4, so let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold, and as you may have known if you've been following along with me, that I think this series is a good idea for the Star Trek franchise, but as of the last episode, not Episode 4, but 3, I don't think this is maybe necessarily my jam as a show. Like, I understand that it's a good show, but it's not necessarily something that's my cup of tea on that front. But this episode, I don't think is a good episode. I just think this wasn't a very well done one. I've heard mixed things from people who commented on my post where I said I forgot it was Thursday. But yeah, I just don't think this was a good episode for two primary reasons and one petty reason. So I'm going to start with the petty reason because it's the shortest. I did not like when Captain Ake detached the saucer section and went to warp. Starships, when you're the main starship of the show, you should have nacelles. I'm sorry, you should have nacelles when you go to warp. It's petty to want that, but I am a classic starship person on that front. They have such an iconic design with their nacelles going out. I don't care what combination they look like or if there's 4 or 1. I just think that they should have nacelles. That's my petty reason right there, that I didn't care for that. It just looked weird to me. I know the Defiant exists, but whatever. I'm not counting that because it's Deep Space Nine. The real reasons that I didn't care for this is because I don't think they developed Caleb's and Jaden's relationship enough to do the kind of brotherly, we're starting to really feel like brothers situation, and because of the flashback situation. I did not care how they did the flashback. They went for a more artsy kind of subjective thing with making it very much repeating flashes of particular moments in this, and I just don't feel like they developed the relationship with his brother and his father and show off that dynamic to make it hurt as much. Like, I as a viewer should have felt for Jaden more when Thar died, but Thar's death, while it was a moment where I recognize I should feel sad, I didn't feel sad because I don't think they developed that relationship enough for me to care about Thar's death. It's as simple as that. Or how angry his father was, or how much grief he had. I feel like they went for an artsy way, but they had enough time in the flashbacks to just play it straight and just give us like an actual relationship with his brother and father in a way that made it more dramatic. I just really think that they didn't do a good job with that. And the idea of Thar being stabbed by a poison sword or knife, and they're like, we don't know what to do, and your herbs and medicine. They tried making these Klingons look like they were like primitives, and they're the Klingon Empire. They developed their own warp drive. They were rivals to the Federation for a long time, technologically speaking. They have a ship, as shown later in the episode, that definitely would have had emergency medicine technology on board, and they didn't use it. And he kept saying, oh, we don't need Federation technology, like it's some kind of cheap or alien thing. It's like, I mean, I know Klingon technology is basically on par or very close to Federation technology for the most part, but why are you dismissing it like it couldn't do anything? Also, we had no idea that the piece of technology that Jaden was messing with didn't have some kind of emergency medical function. We don't really know what it was, other than it was an invitation to join Starfleet Academy. Maybe it had more functions than that, but either way, I just didn't buy Thar's death being necessary because, again, they're Klingons. You think getting stabbed by a poison knife isn't like a regular occurrence for them, and they don't have medicines for being stabbed or any kind of poison they get stabbed with? That just seems like an insane situation to me. And like I said, I don't think they developed the backstory of Jaden's brother's death or his relationship with his father well enough for me to be sold on the kind of brotherly development between Caleb and Jaden, and that just kind of bothered me throughout the episode. And I also felt like the ending where we got to the Klingons having to go to war with the Federation over this planet that would basically act as their new home planet was a really obvious solution, and it didn't feel like a cadet was the only one who could have thought of that. I feel like that definitely would have been something the Vulcans would have suggested, because they have suggested to behave as another alien does in a cultural situation. We learned that in Star Trek Discovery, just off the top of my head there. But I know they've done that in the past before that too, because Sarek has suggested that kind of stuff in the past. So, like, I don't understand why the Federation didn't try to do that, because it's a very obviously Klingon solution. I guess that in the first 20 minutes, first 15 probably, once they finally, were settling, we got to figure out a way to get them to accept this planet. And it's like, yeah, obviously take over the planet and then force the Klingons to fight you and then just give them the planet, basically. That's a super obvious solution to me. So it felt weird that they relied on a cadet and that no one else in Starfleet figured that out. I don't know. Like, it'd been one thing if they had sold it on, like, internal politics about why they couldn't do that, but maybe because it was a Klingon who's proposed it, that helped sell it. But they didn't really develop that part enough for it to feel satisfying to me. So, like I said, this show, I think, is a good idea overall for Star Trek, but it may not end up being my cup of tea. But that being said, I don't think this episode was a particularly strong episode. That being said, I do still like a number of the actors. I think they're charming, and I like the situations. But yeah, this episode just did not develop its main story well enough for me.